Hello, this is Ralph Ginorio. Okay, Ginorio, give me a few minutes and I'll suggest an idea worth considering. Folks, we can win the war on terror. The war on terror is not merely a war against an idea. Such a thing would be unwinnable. Ideas have a way of morphing and coming back. And it's not really even a war against the fanatic. There will always be people who are so dedicated, and it can be a glorious thing as well as a horrible thing, but so dedicated to their goal, to their ideal, that they're not only willing to live according to its dictates, they're not only willing to die for it, but they're willing to kill for it. The modern war on terror is against state-sponsored terrorism. State-sponsored terrorism is a product of the Cold War. Throughout most of the history of the world, terrorists have not had the kind of influence that they have now. That's because throughout history, governments have a natural aversion to arming, equipping, training, and empowering groups that they can't properly control. Well, terror organizations are like gangster organizations. They are not able to be easily controlled by a bunch of bureaucrats and popinjays. What made modern terrorism what it is the Cold War. Because the Soviet Union and the United States were competing for world domination, they needed to compete in every way short of a full-scale direct conflict, which would have ended all life on Earth. So this war between us and the Soviets was fought with propaganda, for example, the space race on both sides. It was fought with economics. It was fought with assassins. Not only were there brushfire wars, but there were wars of assassins directed by their CIA, their KGB, and our CIA. And in that war, the United States, its allies, the Soviet Union, and its allies found fanatical zealot groups and gangster groups and gave them military training, military equipment, military intelligence, and secret places from which they can attack and safely retreat. Well, the Cold War ended 20 years ago, and this has got to stop. It's like hybridizing African killer bees. The African bee is bad by itself. The American bee is sort of bad, but you put them together and you have super bad. When you combine fanatical zealotry with the power that national governments can bring to bear, you get Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, and a bunch of other terror groups that are really trying to grab the history of the world by the throat and shake it and change it and turn it. They look to Gavrilo Princip as their example. He's the most successful terrorist ever. As part of the Serbian-controlled Black Hand, he assassinates the Austrian heir to the throne, causing World War I and the entire history of the modern world. That's what bin Laden wanted to do. That's what the Islamists want to do. And that's what we have to prevent today. The center of global terror in the world right now, and for the last 30 years, has been the Islamic Republic of Iran. What the United States should do, what it should have done in 2002, is say to the world, you have 6 months to divest yourself of any contact with any terrorist group that we've identified or that can replace them in their functionality. If you divest yourself completely, past sins are forgiven. But if you don't, the United States will overthrow your government, replacing you with your most feared domestic opponents. Rather than democracy building, we'll simply kick over your anthill and place the people that you dislike the most within your own society in power over you. We'll fight it hardcore until no national government is going to make the calculation that it is profitable to support a group of gangsters and fanatics with their governmental power, because doing so would be seen as a suicide pact. We have to be courageous and visionary if we're going to consider something like this, because it certainly is not in keeping with the Obama policy of apologizing our way to peace or appeasing our way to peace. It's almost unthinkable, but it's also, I believe, the only way that we can earn a victory worth having and a peace worth calling peace. We sever the ties, by reason or force, between fanatical gangsters and the governments that support them. The governments may still be problematical, the gangsters will still exist, but they'll be reduced to making handmade bombs in their parents' basements. We can win this. Marcus Cato, the Roman senator, used to say at the end of his speeches, Carthage must be destroyed. Carthago delenda est. Well, I will conclude this with what I believe is an absolute indispensable step in winning the war on terror. Persis vicenda est. Iran must be conquered. Be well.